Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Customer Success Show, episode number 33. Today, with my guest, Kristi Faltorusso, and we're covering 10 hard truths every CSM needs to know. Before we jump to her intro, the quick Success Panda housekeeping is head over to Success Panda and feel free to join Panda Pals if you're looking for a low-cost way of having group coaching and finding a community that can help support you through your job search. So that's the only thing I was going to cover. But Kristi, it's Friday. Here we are.
It is Friday, Brad. I waited 4 days for this.
Well, it's going to be good because Mel told me, she said, "Hey, I read one of Kristi's posts and it was amazing." And I was like, "Okay, she's got a lot of good posts. Like what's with this one?" She's like, "Well, it's 10 hard truths every CSM needs to hear." And I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'll go check it out." And so I had like really high expectations because most of your posts are pretty good.
Well, I
But
appreciate that.
yeah, so I think this one really hit home and why we wanted to invite you on the show, because it covers all of the germane topics that I think so many people are going through right now. There's so much content here. And so we're going to bring up on stage the graphic of Kristi's actual post, and then we're just kind of walk through it. And if that's okay with you, we'll just start at number 1 and then go to number 10. And you might hear a couple hot takes from me, which is not uncommon, but hey, you get what you get.
I love
So
it.
Kristi, first off, like, I got this graphic. What was there, like, any rhyme or reason why you wanted to post this? Because some of these listicles, some of them are about tactical things, but this one seems to be more like what's going on in the space. Is
Brad,
there?
I'm gonna give you the answer that is so
Yeah,
boring that like nobody wants to hear, but like
yeah,
I try to do one carousel a week as part of my content strategy. And so
yeah,
having a list or something is really important to the format here. And so honestly, I was just kind of coming off of a couple coaching sessions or advisory sessions with a few leaders, and we were talking about some struggles that their team were having. And then I was reflecting on my own journey, and it kind of just came back to things that, like, man, I wish I would have known these things, or I wish somebody would have addressed them with me earlier so I could at least navigate what to do or how to feel, honestly. So I compiled a
yeah,
list, and to be very honest with you, this list could actually be much, 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 much longer.
yeah. No, I agree. I think, and it's okay if we tag on to the list as we go through, because like one of the points here when we hit number 1. Let's see. I got to hit the da, da, da. Here we go. Number 1, customers don't care about your problems. They don't want to hear about your process, resource issues, or whatever else causes them to have a poor experience or disruption in their service. Tell us, was there a certain story that you had in mind, or what?
I mean, like, here's all, I mean, like,
Mhm.
there's like one story is better than the next, right? But like, we'll use
Yeah,
a recent-ish situation. We were going through a big kind of back end replatforming here at Client Success, and we're navigating something, and it is complex. I mean, like, this is a meaty change we're making. And honestly, for a few customers, there was some friction, and we had to go and get involved and like triage and do damage control. And honestly, I would hear somebody kind of talk to a customer and be like, almost explain the nuances of what was going on to justify their experience, maybe, or to gain empathy. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
we got to back it up. They don't care, right? Because this is an us problem and we can't lead with that. So that was like one example of
mhm.
this where I was kind of navigating it in real time. But I got to be honest with you, how many times have we seen this played out? It's a resourcing thing, it's a technology thing, there's always a thing that causes some disruption or friction. It's a pricing thing. It doesn't matter, and your customers don't want to hear that. So you've got to be able to control the conversation in a way that doesn't look like you're kind of putting the blame on something else, or using some excuse to justify what's happening.
Yeah. It made me think about an early experience I had. I wasn't too many years out of just being in college, and I was on this account, and when people get nervous, they start talking, and then you got to build up that muscle where you got to be like, I don't know, or I'll get back to you, right? You got to kind of build that up.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite there yet where I was just kind of explaining, and I was like, hey, we actually had this specific situation where this person wanted a PDF of this slide deck, and it happened to be that morning. I checked, I was trying to make it, and our Adobe Acrobat license had expired. And so I'm sitting there on the call like an hour later, and I'm like, yeah, I can't get it to you today. And this stakeholder just in a very firm way said, you either get it to me today or this is not going to happen. I don't care what the problem is. I just need the PDF. And I remember sitting back and I'm like, oh, I was like, it felt like I just got punched right in between the eyes, where it's just like they don't care like what my constraints are. They just, here's the task, get the PDF to me, or whatever. And I've seen this over and over again. I've had coaching sessions with job seekers and like, oh, I can't do the interview because I don't have internet. I'm like, go to the library, you know, or go to Starbucks. Yeah, I mean, it's just gotta be
Yeah.
be creative. So um
I mean, and you
I like
you
this.
see this one play out a lot in a lot of different situations, right? Another one is like, your sales team hands over a customer with incomplete information, and it's like, oh, well, I can't get started, or I can't do that. I mean, because this happens internally as much as it does externally. So when I even say customers, your internal cross-functional teams or teams that you support and work with are also your customers. So it's just kind of this idea that like deflection and excuse making isn't going to work.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm gonna bring up a story. So I don't know about you, Kristi, but I have a link here and I'm gonna bring this over. And out of all your like 10 points, I decided to put it under this one about customers don't care about your problems. And one of the problems is that companies might be facing are, hey, we need to grow revenue, right? And um, there's a lot of different ways on how to approach that. But here we go. Do you like that?
It's
That quick
smooth.
drag over. I mean,
That was smooth.
this is a high production operation we got going on. So Jason Lemkin, who is the founder of SaaStr, he has been I've kind of been like watching some of his stuff because he's been dogging on CS a little bit. And something that I thought was interesting, this isn't very long, but basically he said, hey, we had this basically poor experience with the CS team. This person, a VP of somebody in their tech stack's like, hey, we need to have a roadmap meeting. So they framed it as we need to have a roadmap meeting. And eventually they took the call, and it turns out that that it was just another pitch for them to try to buy something that they didn't need. And so, something that stood out to me in this article that I wanted to get your reaction on
Mhm.
is the thing when I'm reading this, where it says right here, when we asked for the roadmap review, the customer success exec said, oh, just go see it on our webinar later this week. He didn't even bother to do the roadmap review at all, didn't care the moment we were going to buy more then and there. And anytime I see this, didn't care, it is like red flags, going off, where it just keeps reminding me so often that your customers want you to care about them, and if you show that they're not, they are going to not only pick up on that. Anyways, not to read this whole thing, but basically the last, I know that there's ads and all this stuff. This right here, because I've been talking about this, and it's kind of one of my heretical beliefs, but it's just been, I go on other people's LinkedIn, sometimes I'll leave comments, but I think Jason hits it right here. If customer success uh, isn't part of the team word of mouth anymore, that's a big loss. At least understand the trade-off. So what he's trying to say is every time they have there's a lot more CS people trying to generate revenue through their existing base and trying to sell things, and they become an extension of the sales team. And I like the word trade-off because that's what you know, that's what I'm trying to tell people is like when you are trying to generate more revenue, if you're going in the motion of a sales motion, regardless of whether it's a new sale or a renewal or upsell, it's still like, you know, a sales opportunity. And I think that there's a trade-off because he's been publicly kind of getting on CS's case about, oh, I got another call from a CS person asking me to spend more money and not so much, you know, wanting to help us with like our application or our roadmap. So I don't know. There's all that. What do you think about that? Because I thought under your first point that this one would probably fall, which is um, your customer doesn't care that you're only growing 10% against your target of 15 or whatever it might be, whatever your arbitrary target is. But yet we have so many, it seems like CS leaders trying to go to that well over and over again, maybe to the detriment and trade-off of the sentiment of their customers. What do you
I
think
mean,
about that whole thing?
I could spend 4 hours talking about why this is all it's just poor execution, but the reality is if you understand the trust equation, which is, you know, reliability, credibility, and intimacy over self-orientation, it's the self-orientation part that is really important to understand because your customers should not feel your reason, right? They shouldn't feel that you have a quota. They shouldn't feel that you have a target. And the problem is with the motions that are being run, they very much do because people don't know how to sell effectively in this framework. And so this starts top down, right? It's because leaders
Right.
are inheriting targets and goals that they weren't a part of designing because they don't know how to architect that conversation with the CFO. So they are just accepting a number that is being handed down to them. Now they've got to own that number to the board and to their executives. Then it's a trickle down effect. And so as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why you cannot do this effectively. I have done it a million times over. And there's been zero degradation in any of the partnerships in which I've done it effectively. The problem is how it's executed. And so, yes, it goes back to the trust equation. When the self-orientation is felt in the partnership, this is where this kind of comes into play.
Yeah. The bait and switch of it all, like in this specific example of like, hey, you know, if I'm a CSM for you, Kristi, and I'm in your tech stack and I'm like, hey, we're going to cover the roadmap. I
You
mean,
show up to talk about the roadmap.
yeah, I mean,
It's crazy to me.
to me, that's kind of a testament of like how much pressure some of these senior leaders are under. That they know that we're sitting here communicating that very back and forth simply, but then they're doing things like that, which they know it's a withdrawal from the bank account of the relationship, but they're willing to do it. So yeah, that's tough. All right. Two. I like this one. No, no news is not good news. If your customers are not engaged in the partnership, not responding to you, not giving feedback, and not interested in learning more, there's an issue. Tell us more.
I mean, this is it. I can't tell you how many times when I have talked to customer success managers over the years and it's like, okay, what's going on in this account? Right? No, 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 they're good. Right? Oh, well, we haven't
They're
had an
good, Kristi.
engagement. We,
They're
we haven't
good.
had an engagement with them, or I haven't seen like they're not active in the partnership. No, 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 but they're using the product. So they're great. They're not an issue right now, right? Like they wouldn't flag that as an at-risk customer. And I'll give you a quick little story. I had a
Mm,
customer, and this was a big, 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 like one of our top enterprise customers. I mean, a multi-million dollar account. Okay. The
right.
CSM who was working on it, and we'll say it was a CSE, so a customer success executive. So not a low level, entry level CSM.
Right.
This is an experienced, tenured professional who should know better. Basically, what happened here is we have this huge customer, and they had historically been really engaged in the partnership. They're probably one of our strongest adopters at the time of the product. And
Yeah.
so, listen, the CSE, he is stressed out and he's like, got to focus his attention on other things. And so I would always check in on this and just be like, hey, how are they doing? And is everything good there? I feel like we haven't really had a lot of engagement. I've not been pulled in. I just want to make sure that like you've got this. Now, I try not to micromanage. You're a very senior person. So I assume when you tell me you got this, that we're good. So long story short, we get to the renewal and the customer tells us they're not going to renew. And I'm like,
Oh,
what?
snap.
What? Like you
Yeah.
use the product all day, every day. They had spent the past year offboarding our solution, onboarding a new solution. So when it came to the renewal, they can hit a switch. So the reason why they weren't engaged with us is because they were too busy building our competitive solution in their tech stack. So
Right.
our CSM took, nope, we're good. The adoption's good. They were fine. They were not engaged. They were no longer taking calls. They weren't going to our webinars anymore. We had no executive connection. We had not gone on site. Like, there was a lot of things and everything was justified or explained away, right? There was always a reason why these things weren't happening. And honestly, shame on me. Like, I mean, we did manage the renewal 6 months in advance. It's not like we were 30 days out, but we should have, and I should have leaned in a little bit more aggressively and ignored the fact that my gut told me something was not right. And I trusted this person to maybe rely on the data and insights and to know better. And that was, shame on me.
Yeah. I think so many leaders have stories just like that, where I think they, they call them watermelon accounts, right? Green on the outside, red on the inside,
Mhm.
right? Where there's been so many times where even sometimes they'll tell you, like when you're trying to be proactive, right? And you're trying to do them right and you're trying to expand, you're trying to be all about what their business is and trying to help them. Um, yeah, sometimes that topic of having hard conversations is incredibly challenging, right? I mean, I was just thinking about just the other, so random life story here. 2 days ago, my 7-year-old has another 7-year-old in the neighborhood. I have a daughter, there's a little boy. He comes over and he gets mad because my daughter has another little friend that wants to play. And so now these two girls want to play and they're kind of not wanting to include this other little boy.
Mhm.
Anyways, he gets mad and he's just like, he just yells at her and said, "You got a big butt. I'm going home." And and so
Insults have really evolved over the years.
I know. I was like, man, I remember back in the day, like the best yo mama joke made you really popular. But anyways, he came back and I was just like, I said, "Hey buddy, come here." I said, and I just had what was quote a hard conversation. I showed him, like, "Hey, we care, we want you to be here. You're a good kid, but I gotta let you know, commenting, on people and saying that and all the things." But anyways, he responded to it well. But again, there's a lot of people, whether you're a parent or not, who just would just be like, oh, they deal with that in so many different ways,
Yeah,
right? Um, and the same with like these accounts, right? Which is just having hard conversations. I think that is for me what I look for in like top 3 skills of a CSM is how do you deliver difficult news or have hard conversations because the all of the gains that materially matter are on the other side of typically hard conversations.
absolutely. I mean, listen, I've got we've got customers who are not terribly engaged, or, the customer pushes back on maybe your recommended cadence of engagement. Let's say you are trying to engage with them weekly, biweekly, or monthly, and they're like, you know what, actually, just like once a quarter. I challenge my team to understand why. Because to me, if they're pushing back, we're either deprioritized, they're not getting value from these engagements, right? Like there is something that's happening, that there is a reason that's driving that. And so I always encourage everybody, like, have the conversation, address the issue head on. And what's the worst that they're going to say? Like, you know what? Actually, yeah, you're right. When you come to these conversations, you're not bringing a ton of value. I don't think it's a good use of my time. You could do something with that. But accepting the fact that they're saying, like, no, 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 we're good. I'll talk to you in 3 months. That's not great
Mhm.
when you're working off of 12-month contracts, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's another skill of CSMs, read the room. You gotta know when you're getting slow walked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, number 3, you can't save every customer. Some customers will churn, and it's inevitable. Be thoughtful with where and how you invest your time and effort.
I
Tell us
mean,
more.
this one is or should be a little bit more self-explanatory than maybe some of the other ones, but this is
Yeah,
the reality, right? Like, I don't know anybody who has 100% GRR. I don't
right,
know anybody who has 100% logo retention, right? Like, these are just and if there is a company out there and you've been around long enough to have customers to churn, because none of this easy peasy, like we haven't even had any renewals yet. I
right,
mean,
right.
a company that's been around long enough to see some things, you're gonna lose customers, and it's inevitable, and it's okay. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I've lost customers to M&A. I have lost customers who have gone out of business, restructured. Some customers that, like, lost entire teams. I mean, there's a multitude of things that you can control and things that you cannot. And what happens is, if you're just treating all risk and all potential churn the same way, you're stretched too thin. There is no way, right? And the outcome's not going to have the same impact. So you've got to figure out, where where do you prioritize your time? If I've got a customer who I know was just acquired and their parent company has a competitive solution in there, listen, I will tell you, I'm going to use my historical trended data that suggests I know that 1%, maybe less, of the customers that we have that have gone through M&A where the parent company has an incumbent solution, do we ever win that business? It just never happens.
Right.
So I'm not going to go and spend countless cycles on a deal. I mean, listen, maybe if it's several $1,000,000, fine. Maybe this is where you kind of use that judgment. But in most
Right.
cases, that's not the situation for us. I can't have my team running cycles on a deal where we know that the outcome and the impact is going to be so much lower than working on a deal that there is great potential that we can preserve this relationship or take a customer who's happy and make them happier and get them to spend more and stay longer. It's just, you've got it. We only have so many hours. There's only so many resources, and you just have to be smart about where you're prioritizing your time. And then you have the issue, and I'll just call this one out too. You've got customers who just shouldn't be customers anymore. Right. The customers that you bring on board when you are day one, your first customer that you ever sold, they've been around for 5 years. Great. Maybe they weren't even your ICP then. They're definitely not your ICP now, but we're holding on and we're treating every customer like the same and that all the value is equal. But I'll tell you, if you've got a customer who's in your book who's not an ICP, it's not aligned, your roadmap is going this way, they're going that way. What are you holding on to? If they want to go, let them go.
Yeah.
There's
What
just
would
certain
you
situations that need to be evaluated that way.
what so what would you say to maybe the CSMs and the ICs that are gonna be watching this either live or in the future on the YouTube channel of saying, "Hey, Kristi, I hear what you're saying, but how do I articulate this to my manager? Because when I started, I'm having this book, I got 100 customers. I knew that, say, these 7 were gonna be problems." Like, how do you help communicate that, we'll say, from IC going upward and kind of that trajectory?
Well, first of all, I don't think that I would go into those conversations telling my leader anything. I would go in there
Mhm,
looking to have a conversation.
mhm,
I think you want to collaborate if you're in that position. I think the second thing I'm going to call out is that if you are inheriting a book of business or you are getting new customers that are coming in the sales process and you're identifying risk at any point and it's early on, escalate that up, right? Have those conversations. And third, use the data to make recommendations. Everybody is
mhm,
hired because they are experienced, smart, capable, right? I don't
right,
think that there's anyone out here who has a job where that wasn't probably some of the deciding factors of how they got there.
right,
Make recommendations to your boss, but ask for their opinion. At the end of
right,
the day, I know that ICs are going to tend to do what their bosses instruct them to do. It's just the
mhm,
behavior of the partnership that you've got with your leader. But you can feel empowered to invite a dialogue, right? And present
right,
some facts and say, hey, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Leader, I have these 5 customers. They're all at risk right now. With everything I have on my plate, I've got to prioritize. Here's situation A, B, C, D, E. Here's what I'm thinking we should do. I think I have a real good chance of saving these 3, but these 2, given the circumstances and given the value, I'm finding it like really difficult to justify the time investment right now. What are your thoughts here? Or how should I navigate
right,
this? Or can you step in and help me? Fine. If you
right,
have leader save the day who wants to come and put their cape on and jump in, let them. But
right,
you have to invite the conversation. I would never go to my leader though and say, hey, I'm going to let these 3 customers churn because Kristi
right,
said that I could because based off of the XYZ criteria. You're having the wrong conversation. Invite a dialogue.
right, right. No, I 100% agree. Cool. All right. So bad fit customers, number 4, aren't your fault, but they're your responsibility. So we've already kind of, talked a little bit about this. Some customers will not be your ideal customer profile, but they still have customers and have goals and expectation. Lean in accordingly. Yeah. So it's like you said, especially if you're working in startups, there's a lot of people in CS organizations that are in, seed ABC companies that ICPs are changing, new products are changing, things change quickly. I think it's perhaps my time of mentoring and coaching so many people where I hear so many anecdotes of people not having, we'll say, a positive balance with whoever their manager is, meaning I don't feel safe to tell them, or open that dialogue, right? Where I've tried to do that before. And I think so that's why I was like, for my last question, just thinking about, I agree with, having the opening a dialogue and trying to have that. But I think I like this point too because it gets back to that like ICP. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've ever seen any. I've worked at some places where some tools do a lot of different things for a lot of different industries. And that this sword kind of cuts both ways, where sometimes your product can open up brand new like ICPs and you can find out like, hey, it's actually a business development tool. We can help them sell. Oh, no one's been doing that before.
Yeah.
Right. And then people can fall out of like, product market fit. But any comments on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this specifically when I drafted this point, it was more for net new customers coming out of sales. Because I hear this all the time, right? Like, oh, this
Yeah.
this customer, right? Like it's like, and customer success teams are really, really quick to point the finger back at sales. But like, let me tell you something. If
Yeah.
you're in sales and you got a customer or you have a prospect who wants to buy your product, you're not likely to tell them no. Now, I'm not saying whether you say yes or no is good or right or bad or whatever, but you're not going to do it. I have seen very, very, very few salespeople who
Hmm.
turn down a sale. And so the reality is like, listen, not every customer who walks through the door is going to be the ideal customer. But it is your responsibility to help them be successful to the extent that you can. And so, what I'm seeking here is for CSMs to understand that, yes, I get it. It could be frustrating, but this is your job. This is why you exist. Your job is to make that customer successful. So, take this as an opportunity to understand their business, understand why they championed the sale. What did they see in the product during that process that they felt they could be successful with, and then lean into that, build a partnership, reset expectations, and do your job. I just see too much complaining, Brad, and it's like it really
Yeah.
gets me. There's so much finger pointing, there's not enough collaboration. But I will say this: if you are a CSM and you're in a position where 80% of the deals that you are getting from the sales team are bad fit, it is also your responsibility to flag them, keep track of them, and escalate that, because
Yeah.
nobody is going to do anything if you're not talking about it, if you're not bringing data to it also. And then I'm not even saying just the early onset data. What happens a year later? Now, what happens is that this falls off everyone's radar, but I will tell you one of the things that we do in my team is that we flag it day one. So we have something that we designed called a success probability score. And it basically is a score of 0 to 100 that tells us from the onset what is the likelihood that this customer could be successful quickly. Okay. The higher
Right.
the number, higher success rate, faster. Lower number, it's going to take them a lot longer, more resources, right? It's more of a burn on that. Doesn't mean that everyone can't be successful. It's the resources and the time that it's going to take to get them there. Keep track of things like that, because then you can go back and tell your story. You can anecdotally say, this industry, this customer size, this organization structure, they don't work for us well. It is a burn on our resources, it's a burn on time, and it has a higher churn rate than any other customer that doesn't look like this. Use that data to tell the story and influence the organization.
Love that. To me, one of my big words is trade-offs. I'll probably say it a couple times, but when you were talking about how more likely than not, salespeople are going to close sales for people who want to buy their product, I 100% agree, unless asterisk asterisk asterisk, you have senior leaders within the company who are very specific and particular about their brand. They recognize their brand is their brand, their customer experience, their service delivery. These are the moats, right? Where the technical with AI and like it'll be good enough where it'll be like, hey, Kristi, you know, go clone Instagram, and AI will be able to clone Instagram, within 30 minutes, right? And so like the technical, I feel like is melting away, and more companies are recognizing that all those things I just talked about, the service delivery, your customer experience, user experience, and your brand are going to be bigger moats. And I think everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too. Everyone wants to find the ICPs and that are willing to pay and sign up. But I think the trade-off is if you're an organization who is okay with signing up a lot of companies, just understand that there might be a trade-off. Like, I'm not saying de facto might, maybe you can have your cake and eat it too, but maybe perhaps there might be a trade-off, like Jason Lemkin's going on, online and blasting you, which he didn't call out anybody specific, but things like that do happen, especially if you have, second order revenue, word of mouth.
Yeah.
where, if I'm using your solution and I leave company A and I go to company B and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
Kristi's amazing, their solution's amazing, right? I think that's kind of a big thing sometimes that can go under the radar when we're looking at some of the trade-offs, because whether it's good or bad, I mean, that's up for interpretation, but most companies are driven off of short-term financials, right?
Sadly, that is the case. But I'm going to add one more thing to this.
Yeah.
What a lot of companies have designed is not an ICP, an ideal customer profile. They have identified an ideal prospect profile. These are companies that will buy, not companies that will be successful. There is a big difference.
That is an amazing point, and that is 100% true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you ask a company, was the customer experience organization part of designing the ICP? And then they say no, and most will say no, or, oh, yeah, we looked at
Mhm,
some customer data. If your customer leadership team at the highest level was not
mhm.
part of architecting that profile and almost driving it exclusively with some influence with sales and marketing, then you have an IPP, not an ICP.
Right. Makes me think of a point I tell a lot of people who talk to me, and they, like you said, there is a lot of complaining. Not to say that there aren't things or challenges, but yeah, it's still your job. You gotta do your job, do the best you can. But so many, um, I talked about this on the last show, Enron, before they went bankrupt, right, with Bernie Madoff.
I love a good Enron story. Let's
Yeah.
go.
What do you think one of their corporate values were, Kristi?
Oh, God.
If you just had to guess, throw out one of the words that might be on there.
I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
well, integrity was one.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, that was a good one. All right,
yeah,
okay.
and so trust was another, right? And so the point I want to make is that we're in this period right now where, similar to how like Enron had the right words on their website, we have trust and we have
Right,
all of
right,
it. We're saying all the right things. Meanwhile, they're running a Ponzi scheme and people are losing billions of dollars, right? The same thing exists within customer success, where there are legitimately organizations that care about service delivery, the customer experience, and helping their customers be successful. But there are a lot of Enrons, we'll say, who say the right things.
yeah,
They might have the words on the website, right? And they, the number one test that I tell people, I say, like, especially job seekers, I said it'll be unusual requests, but I say, hey, um, can you send me what the average salesperson uses in their pitch deck? They're like, oh, sure, here you go. It's public. Look in their pitch deck. Is there one slide, Kristi, that talks about the post sale service delivery or journey or anything that has to do with what it's going to be like post sale, right? And to me, there's so many companies that they don't even. How are you going to say that you value the customer experience when it's not? There's not even
yeah,
one point in your pitch deck. So, just that's just a little hack in case you wanted to see how much they really are going to focus on the post sale service delivery.
that's a good
But
one.
yeah, all right. Stop chasing health scores. Health scores are the only one single data point that often doesn't represent reality. Stop obsessing over color and start focusing on outcomes. I can not disagree more. I love my colors in my little spreadsheets. I like seeing them change. I feel like I'm playing red light, green light, with the little cells. No, but tell us about this one. What have you seen?
Okay. Now, don't forget, I have a competitive advantage here for working for an, customer success platform, right?
Right,
Which we offer the ability to design health scores.
right.
So, and I've been here for 4 years, so I've seen some things. Okay. Most people are designing very generic health scores based off of templates that are arbitrary that they found of somebody on a webinar. Maybe it was my webinar. Maybe it was a template that I put out there. Heck, maybe I'm the problem. But whatever the case may be, most health scores are not indicative of their customer profile, their product, and the criteria that matters for their business. And even when they do over engineer it and put all these things in there, they are not using any anecdotal data that suggests that those are right or the percentages are right. Now, the cool thing I will say about AI is that now you can process all this big data and get trends and insights, and you can take 2 years worth of historical data and say, actually, like, here's the churn profile for all these customers.
Yeah.
What does good look like? What does bad look like? Like, you can actually get it dialed in a bit more now than ever before, and people are still getting it wrong. But regardless, these are not helpful. They are one single data point. And I'm not saying that all the information that you pile into this is useless, but I think it's directional at best. Many companies are using this as their forecast. They're using it as their engagement driver. They are abusing it, and it's
Right.
wrong. And it's wrong. And it didn't tell you anything. Because
Yeah.
I will bet my entire annual salary that at some point you will see a green customer churn and you will see a red customer stay. So, and grow maybe. So don't
Yeah.
tell me your health scores are dialed in and then that is the end all be all.
Preach. Yeah.
Woof,
I mean,
woof.
100%.
That one makes me a little warm. Get a little
I
hot and
know.
bothered with that one, Brad.
I know. I can't tell you that and you know what I think it is just like anytime there's the book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And one of the big things, by Daniel Kahneman, and one of the big lessons I drew out of that book, and he won this, he won awards for that book and all this stuff. And he's a behavioral expert, understands human behavior. And one of the big things he said is, with humans, what you see is all there is, right? That, hey, I see green next to company. I am at peace. Time to move on to row number 2, right? So what you see is all there is. And I think that's why customer health scores, like you said, are so engineered and sometimes can be, they we'll say they overqualify data, right? But data is just data. How you interpret the data is also a completely different thing. And so people like seeing the green circles, right?
I
It's
mean, it
what you
gives
see is
them
all there
peace.
is.
It gives them peace. It
Right.
allows them, it's almost like a justification of the work that they do. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's green, so I can go focus on the yellow and the red,
Correct.
or it's red and it's churning, so I'm gonna go pay attention to this over here, or everyone's green, and so I'm gonna go play Pokemon. I don't know. Like, people are just they're
There you go.
using it and abusing it, and it's just wrong. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's completely useless. I'm just saying it's it's just being abused. It's being
Yeah.
abused, and we can do better. So
Yeah.
stop. It's one data point.
There you go. Number 6, your job isn't just to retain customers. Whether you like it or not, your job is to help your customers grow with you. If they are growing, so is your business.
We have to get out of our own way. I mean, listen, you know what SaaS started? Land and expand.
Mhm.
Why is everyone so scared of the expand? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it happens, and when it does, everyone wins. I can tell you, I go into every partnership kickoff call that we have with the customer, and I am explicitly clear. Our job is to help you see value, because if you see value, you will stay and you will grow.
Yeah.
My commitment to you is that you're achieving your goals, you're getting what you needed. And I hope that in return, your commitment back to me is that if I do what I said I'm going to do in helping you achieve that, you're going to stay. And when we find another pain, you're going to grow with me. We are in commercial relationships with our customers. Okay. This
Right.
is not unless you're working for a nonprofit, which I know many of us are not.
Right.
Your job is to retain and grow these customers, not to just safely retain them. And we are so panicked that our any commercial conversation is going to send this customer sideways and backwards and get them jumping off a cliff. And it's not the case. Now, listen, this goes back to our first point early in the slides where I said, yeah, I get it. If you have a leader who is inheriting targets and quotas top down, was not a part of it, the design, everything from that point forward is going to feel very unnatural, as is the conversations, as is the motions that we're running with our customers. But
Yeah.
if you do this well and you do it right, you can also do it effectively. So we need to get out of our own heads. We need to stop leading with fear. And I know that that's what it is, right? It's
Yeah.
fear because we've never done it. It's fear because what if I'm bad at it? We have to stop with that. But at the end of the day, I'm putting the buck back on the leaders. It's their fault. If this is not happening, we are not enabling, we are not training, we are not architecting goals and commissions and all this stuff correctly if the behaviors aren't right. Because people do what you pay them to do. So if this buck stops with them, but We have to grow our customers.
Kristi, I'm not going to get invited to people's birthdays because when I hear leaders get up on, these final where you're at conferences, you got a panel of 3, everyone's talking about how important mentorship training is, providing clarity. And then I get the microphone for Q&A. So if you say training and, mentoring, I agree. I help people do that too. Does your company have an annual stipend or budget that they allocate towards that? Oh my gosh. Crickets, deflection. Like
Brad,
yeah.
I say this all the time. In the interview process, though, leaders should be asking, what is the sales training enablement budget? I don't need as much as that. I need probably 10%. Can you just confirm with me? What do you
Yeah.
have allocated to that for the customer success org?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why we're not having any conversations about budget, P&L, anything in the interview process when we absolutely should. Or my best is when they go, oh, no, we don't have a budget for that. But when you come into the role, you'll be able to kind of sort that all out. That is a trap. That means you get 0.
It's a
Sorry.
trap.
But I will say, even if you do have 0, there are ways around it. There are plenty of people out there that can help with training enablement and all that stuff. So again, I'm not here for excuses.
Yeah, I feel you. All right. Number 7, burnout happens when you care a lot and still feel powerless. Learn how to set boundaries, own your own time, prioritize your health and wellness, and protect your energy.
Man, I mean, if you've gone on Reddit, if you haven't gone on Reddit, here, go to the customer success sub. These poor CSMs, guys. I mean, like, my heart breaks every single day for these people. And I might be the only one on Reddit that actually uses my real name, because I didn't realize that when I set up Reddit many years ago. But so I use my real name with Reddit, and I will tell you, like, I am such a lurker. But the CSMs that are writing posts and the comments, oh gosh, please do not skip a comment. Our CSMs are broken. They're broken. And it's really sad. It's really hard. And so many of them want so desperately to be successful in their roles. And they feel like both their hands, their arms, their legs are tied behind them. They don't have good products. They don't have good leadership. They don't have good data. They don't have good tools. They don't have good customers, right? Like they are feeling like they are set up to fail. And so honestly, I read these things, and why I put this here is because that is enough to burn anybody out. And when you care so much and you are so desperate to be successful, you're going to go above and beyond. My first couple years as a CSM, I was managing teams in Australia and India. I'm in the East Coast. I mean, I was working 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was working till 11, 12 at night. And my days just were big, long days into naps. And then that just rolled over and it all happened again. That was it. I cared so much and I wanted so desperately to be successful. I gained a ton of weight. I was so unhealthy. I stopped exercising. I ate like crap. My sleep was trash. And that's my fault because I let that happen. Right. I let the desperation to be successful in an environment that was not enabling me to be successful redefine my entire existence. And so this is a cry for help. Like, you have to set your own boundaries. It's your life. It's your time. It's your health. It's your wellness. At the end of the day, you may or may not ever be at this company again. You have you have one body. You got to take care of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just to share one quick story, I was speaking with someone who I was coaching and mentoring, and this person was telling me they were in a role and they were wanting to transfer from a CS role to a CS ops role. So they started taking on all this extra work and they started taking on these special projects because they cared, but then they were trying to also transition in, and that wanting to take on more responsibility, to go where the passion is, to go where the interest and the curiosity is, burnt this person out. They ended up leaving the company, went to a different company. But what I tell people is, like, so with Success Panda, where it's helping people thrive in customer success, wanting to build a marketplace, transitioning more towards having it be the social network for customer success, like, that's scratching an itch because I'm a builder. Okay. I used to build custom furniture tables. I love the feeling when I would deliver them to customers' houses. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Brad, this is so amazing. Come next week with your family and like have dinner here." I'm like, "Wow, this is a lot of validation for building this table." Meanwhile, you like work at some company and you're like, we didn't lose a single customer this year. Great. What's next, Brad? All right. All right. So I think one of the big things is like, if you know what your itch is that you're trying to scratch, right? Kind of Socrates, know thyself. Just know that some places, the best places that you can be, you'll have a manager, you'll have someone who will empower you to do that and help support you in that path. But that's not everywhere. And it's not every,
Yeah.
position. And so just take that for what it is. So, look, number 8, activity does not equal impact. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're impactful. Just make sure that you are spending your time on the right work.
All right, let me just emphasize the right work, and your boss might not be guiding you towards the right work. Most leaders measure activity and not impact because it's easy, because it's
Mhm.
measurable, right? How many calls have we had? Okay, to me, that is not the same as, was this a good call? Did the customer get value from it? Did we advance the project? Did we advance the program? Are we closer to the outcome? Those are the measurements, and that's what I care about. And I
Right.
don't care, it's a means to an end. I don't care if it takes you 12 calls or 3 calls. I'm not measuring the number of calls, I'm measuring the outcome. So if we're not clear on that, we're just going to continue to put a checklist box, bunch of boxes in front of your team and have them checking them off. And people are just going through the motions. They're doing the activities. They're not focused on the objective. So I blame the leaders because you set them up to act and behave this way. I'm a leader. I'm blaming my peers. It is
Right.
your fault because of what you are measuring, because
Right.
you will do what is being measured, right? It's like the measure what's managed. Yeah, you manage what's measured. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But for CSMs, I do not excuse you and exempt you from any accountability in this either. Yes, your leaders are doing this, but you have to know the difference, right? When you
Right.
have a laundry list of priorities in front of you, where are you putting your time and effort? Is it, I'm going to go send the 50 emails because I've got to send 50 emails a day, which I've actually heard that people have those types of targets, which to me is absurd. It's just wild. I'm like, you're not an SDR. This is crazy to me. But like, are you doing that? Or if you've got a customer escalation that's sitting in front of you and it's literally requiring you to clear your entire calendar all day to focus on this, get the customer on a call, get the team together, workshop a plan, align on next steps, send out the follow-up, put together the project plan. To me, that is a better use of your time than checking off the boxes that have been assigned to you for your daily stuff. So know the difference, right? Is what I'm doing today going to have business impact tomorrow? Use that as your differentiator.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Activity does not equal results. And I think it goes back to the earlier point, Kristi, when how many software solutions are there where we get to track activity? People, what you see is
They're
all there is.
obsessed. They're
Yeah.
obsessed.
Yeah. And it's like you have people who want to track that rather than, you know,
Now,
hey,
listen, I
yeah.
understand that there are certain leading indicators, right? That
Mhm.
that help us get to the lagging indicator, right? So if I do these things, it should ultimately get here. But there's the milestones is what we're missing, right?
Right.
We don't have these milestones along the way to actually say like we are progressing towards this thing, and then we continue on this vicious cycle of activity, and then we ultimately never get to that goal. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, no plan equals no strategy. Showing up to meetings without it's I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's just I've seen too much. Showing up to meetings with customers unprepared with no agenda, no insights, no research, and no value will ensure the meeting is a waste of time. When I read this, that's why I was laughing. I was like, oh, like you said, when you hear people have 50 calls they're supposed to make, or I don't
Right,
know,
it's like, I
it's
can't
wild.
tell you like, I have CSMs of products that I use, and I show up to a call, and they go, "So what do you wanna talk about?" And I'm like, "Oh, hell no, you did not just ask me that. Okay, you made me come here. I've got 30 minutes on the calendar for us, and you're coming with a goose egg, and you want me to drive the agenda? You just put the monkey on my back? Are you kidding?" So
Right.
and then that's immediately when I'm like, "You know what? We're not doing these calls anymore, sorry."
Yeah.
You have to, as a CSM, if you are asking for time from your customers, it is the greatest currency. If they are gifting you their time, you better be prepared to drive value. I don't even accept meetings anymore that don't have an agenda and an objective. And those two are different, right? The agenda is what you're talking about. The objective is why we're meeting, right? What do we hope to achieve in this meeting? They are two different things. It is not enough to have one, you have to have both. You have to be able to bring some value, whether that is insights in their industry, their program, their project, updates on something. Like, you have to bring something of substance. The minute you stop doing these basic things, that is when your customer tells you, you know what? And most of them are going to be really nice about it too, because not everyone can be mean to people, but they're like, oh, you know what? We don't need to meet next week. I'm good. I'll circle back with you when I need something. Don't worry about it. Don't call me. I'll call you. The minute you start getting a sense that that's what's happening in your relationship, you failed to bring value. They don't see value in your engagement. They are going to disengage over time. That's going to degrade the relationship. And then bye-bye.
Yeah. Again, I used to train my CSMs. We don't ever just follow up. Like what you just said, or everything that you do has to bring some sort of value. Set a Google alert for the company. So
Be
even if you,
intentional. Be intentional.
yeah, it's just like have something of value, even if it's just, hey, Kristi, here's been your recent usage over the last 30 days. Just wanted to make sure that, we're on track to meet next week for the renewal conversation, whatever. Yep. Right. So I think a lot of it's just also on the leaders, because if you start seeing stuff like that and you see it going out, you're just like,
You're a
you're
leader.
training your
You
customers
have
to ignore it.
Gong, you have Chorus, you've got a Voma, you got Zoom meeting recordings now.
Yeah.
Go sit on a random call with your CSM. Just go listen to it.
Yeah.
If they're starting it with like, hey, so I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. First of all, the fact that your team is doing check-ins, shame on you, that you're allowing that behavior. And two, like, go and coach your team on what does a good conversation look like. Enable them, set them up to succeed. You go lead a call, have them join your meeting and show them how it's done. Lead from the front, guys.
There you go. All right. Number 10, taking on the work of others is not a value add. Support should handle tickets, finance should handle billing, marketing should handle events, etc. Do your job, not everyone else's.
Oh man, so this goes back to my principle that if you're a CSM, you do not own the customer. I think everyone lives in their head where it's like, no, I'm the CSM. This is my customer. I own this customer. You have now just established yourself as the biggest blocker and your own burden. When I was a CSM early in my career, I didn't want anyone touching my accounts, right? These are my babies. Get out, stay out. If my customer needs something, I'll let you know. Do not touch them. And I think I was such a B word that nobody wanted to work with me and everyone was terrified to touch my customers. So I would just sit here and like, forget it. If support, I need something, I would go and submit the tickets for my customers and I would go and follow up and I would get the answers and I would have the call. And if there was a billing issue or they needed to re-sign a contract or change billing terms, I was doing that for them. And, if it was marketing, fine. You want one of my customers to speak at your event, or sales, you need a referenceable customer. I did everything. And let me tell you, the only one, well, not the only one, 2 people suffered, and it was me first. Second was my customer. It prohibited them from building relationships deeper in our company, getting access to more things. I mean, like, it was horrendous. So if you're a CSM, it's going to kill you. You're not a hero by doing this. Let everyone do their jobs. Everyone exists for a reason. Okay. This is not a one-man show and you're not a hero. And then 2, your customers deserve the right to have access to as many people in your organization as possible. It is good for them. It is good for the business.
Gotcha. It sounds like your early CSM self, I would probably describe that as someone who, people who are perfectionists tend to think no one can do it as well as I can. So they have,
yes, which is also what made me the worst early career leader also, because I also believed that there was only one way to do things and it was my way. I mean, listen, nobody has lived more mistakes in their customer success career, I don't think, than I have. So just listen when I tell you these things, guys. Like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. No, I like that. And yeah, and I think that's part of the thing too, is so many people will do other people's jobs because either they're trying to scratch the itch, which is have meaning in their work, or they're burnt out, they're in the wrong seat, they're in the wrong role. They're trying to figure out what else they are good at or want to do. And then there are people who think like, oh, if I do this billing thing, then I'm going to put the cape on. But the
Yes,
thing is
I wanted
this,
all the credit. I wanted
yeah,
all of the credit for any success that took place in my customer book. I wanted
correct.
all the credit. Now, this is my own fault because I'm a words of affirmation girly and I need all the head pats. So because I would thrive on praise, I needed to make sure I did everything.
Yeah. All
But
right.
years of therapy have helped me navigate that, Brad. We are no longer doing this. I am not a hero.
Oh, that is too funny. But I think you are for so many when it comes to putting out actionable content, right? Being able to help share your learnings, because I don't know if you know this, Kristi, but it turns out not everybody who has gained all these experiences is willing to share them so publicly. So you are doing a good thing. You can take that back to your therapist if you want. Be like, Brad, pat me on the head at the end of the show.
I got a head pat today on a Friday afternoon. Ooh.
I know. But the reality is like, you're doing a service, you have a big following in the space. And I know I personally have appreciated a lot of your candid responses, and then your ability to sometimes cut against the grain. Because I think, especially on LinkedIn, where people like have so much fear or FUD, just fear, uncertainty, and doubt, things, what are other people doing? You have strong voices who can give you some good data points based off some really solid experience. So I'll give you that. You're doing a good by doing that. So before we wrap here, where can we unfortunately, it's quitting time, and where can people learn more about you, Kristi?
2 places you can find me. You can find me over on LinkedIn. Just search for Kristi Faltorusso. I am the only one on LinkedIn, so you can go find me there. Otherwise, you can head over to my website, KristiFaltorusso.com. Tons of resources, some free, some not, but tons of things that are available for everybody. So hopefully they're helpful.
All right. Well, unfortunately for me, I'm literally about to get in my car and go camping for 3 days, and I'm going to listen to the
Is it
Jim
raining by you, Brad?
Huh?
Is it raining by you?
No, it's
Okay.
really nice.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
before every time I do, I listen to the Jim Gaffigan bit about going camping, and it's really funny if you haven't listened to it. So, Kristi, have a great weekend. Everybody that tuned in, all the audience, have a great weekend too. Thank you, Kristi, for coming on. We love this post. We thought it was super insightful, and the conversation was just as good. So
Thanks so much, Brad.
We'll see everybody next week on episode number 34. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right.